The specter of violence looms large over the upcoming elections in country name, casting a long shadow of doubt on the credibility of any potential outcome. The military junta, clinging precariously to power, faces a formidable challenge. Holding elections amidst widespread armed resistance and a drastically diminished territorial control. The very notion of a free and fair election seems a cruel joke, given the regime's history of brutal crackdowns on dissent and its tenuous grip on the nation. The military's control, according to a recent BBC Commission study, extends to a mere 21% of the country's territory. While they maintain control over key, densely populated urban centers, vast swathes of the nation remain firmly in the hands of various opposition groups engaged in active conflict against the junta. This severely limited control presents an insurmountable logistical hurdle for conducting even a rudimentary electoral process. The attempted census, a crucial precursor to compiling voter lists, serves as a stark illustration of this predicament. The military managed to conduct a full census in a paltry 145 out of 330 townships, less than half the country. This inadequate coverage reveals the extent of the junta's powerlessness, highlighting the sheer impossibility of organizing a genuinely representative election under these circumstances. The sheer scale of the military's territorial losses renders the prospect of a nationwide vote utterly unrealistic. The areas under their control are simply insufficient to represent the will of the people. The junta's response to this predicament is deeply disturbing. Analysts predict a further escalation of violence, a predictable tactic employed repeatedly since the military seizure of power. The military's strategy, grimly evident, is to secure the polling process in the areas they control, even if it means resorting to brutal force to suppress opposition. This anticipated violence, coupled with the opposition's likely armed resistance, promises a deeply unstable and potentially catastrophic electoral period. The potential for bloodshed is palpable and profoundly troubling. Furthermore, the junta's invitation to election observers from Belarus adds another layer of cynicism to the already dubious proceedings. The Belarusian regime, under the long-standing autocratic rule of Alexander Lukashenko, is notorious for its fraudulent and widely condemned elections. The choice of Belarus as an observer nation speaks volumes about the junta's intentions, a blatant disregard for democratic norms and a clear intention to legitimize a sham election through the participation of a similarly authoritarian regime. Lukashenko's own recent victory, his seventh five-year term, was widely denounced as a blatant farce, a carefully orchestrated charade devoid of any legitimacy. His presence as an observer, or rather, the implied endorsement of his regime, further undermines the already fragile credibility of the impending elections. The situation is fraught with danger. The military's dwindling control, coupled with its propensity for violence and its alliance with a regime known for electoral fraud, paints a bleak picture. The upcoming elections, far from offering a path towards democratic reconciliation, appear destined to become another bloody chapter in the ongoing conflict. Any outcome, under these conditions, will lack legitimacy and will likely serve only to further entrench the military's already precarious position, potentially fueling further conflict and instability. The international community must remain vigilant and exert pressure to ensure that any actions taken do not further legitimize the illegitimate rule of the military junta. The path to peace and genuine democracy requires a fundamentally different approach, one that prioritizes genuine dialogue, inclusive representation, and a rejection of violence as a means of achieving political goals. The current trajectory, however, suggests a grim future, one marred by conflict and the continued suppression of the people's will.